Okay, great. So if you wouldn't mind just like introducing yourself, and in case there's some people watching that don't know about Word on the Water, I don't think there's a lot of people. I know that you're quite a well-known bookshop in Bookshop Crawl circles at least. But if you want to just say a little bit about what the bookshop is and how you operate like in normal pre-pandemic times, that would be great.
So thank you first of all for having me. It's an honour to participate with London Bookshop Crawl. Yes, so my name's Oliver Cable and I run the online presence for Word on the Water. I've known the guys, John and Paddy, for about 4 years now, and came on board in May to run their online shop. For those who aren't aware of Word on the Water, it's a floating bookshop, maybe the only one in London. It's the London Book Barge, 100-year-old Dutch barge with a friendly dog, a parrot, an employee who reads, James, who reads Edward Lear while you're buying books. In the summer, in a good summer, we have jazz and poetry on the roof. In normal times, it's a bit of a hive of activity, where, you know, on any random weekday, you might find some live jazz on the roof, or if not, there'll be a nice bookish ambience and people you can talk to about books and people who can recommend books to you. So yeah,
brilliant. I mean, I have to say, when I think of like bookshops as an experience, Word on the Water is the thing I think of, because my memories of Word on the Water from visiting with my kids. It's my kids' favourite bookshop in London. Every time we're in London, we're like, where do you want to go? They're like, Word on the Water. I want to go and play with the dog. But my experience is not just books. It's that we buy books and we have a chat with someone and we maybe sit and listen to some music, or we go and, like, the boys go and talk to the parrot, and and it's a whole thing. So with that in mind, obviously this last year has been a bit of an adaptation. And a constantly changing adaptation to different lockdowns and different tier restrictions. So how have you adapted to the different restrictions over the last year?
Well, in about April, as soon as it was looking serious, we kind of revamped the website, got a new URL, a new dedicated email address, and pretty quickly we're up and running with an online store. And I came on board around then when the orders were getting too numerous for the team to deal with, which is always a nice point to reach. We've been so grateful to our customers because they've been, checking in and always responding to our Facebook messages and saying, I hope you're keeping afloat, and I'll make sure I'll buy my next set of books from you. And so they've been brilliant, and they've been coming from all over the world. So we've been shipping off to New Zealand, the US, Australia, Brazil, throughout Europe. So we've had some real loyal customers who we're so grateful for.
That's amazing.
And a lot of people getting in touch as well to say that they're looking to get a book, but they don't want to buy it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Which also warms our hearts. And they say, can you get this particular book? And most of the time we can. So that's always good to keep people away from that. Yeah,
absolutely. I think I've definitely seen, because I haven't introduced myself actually, but I always assume people know me. But I have another hat apart from Bookshop Crawl organizer, where I run Ninja Book Box, which is an online pre-loved bookshop and subscription box. And I've been quite vocally boycotting Amazon for about a decade now. But I think that in that stream of my life, I've definitely seen a bit more of an upswing against Amazon during the lockdowns since the pandemic started. Really, there seems to be quite a lot more awareness of various questionable practices that Amazon have, or various ways in which they might not benefit publishers the most, in a different way than there has been before, I think. And I think it's been really interesting to watch that, and to watch kind of what bookshops have done in reaction to that, and in reaction to the pandemic. And it's been really heartwarming, especially because I spend a lot of my time on Twitter, on book Twitter. And it's been really heartwarming kind of seeing people respond to bookshops' tweets and going, I'll buy books from you, I need to get this and that. And a lot of bookshops are now doing subscriptions, which I noticed that Word on the Water are doing as well. Is that a new thing since the pandemic? Or
yes,
yeah, that is.
That was brought in the summer. Similarly, you were asking about, how do you recreate the Word on the Water experience? And a lot of that, as you say, is the curation and the recommendations that you go to John and you say, I really like this book. What do you recommend next? And he'll put together a book, a list of books. And so it was really quite important to recreate that, to differentiate ourselves during the pandemic. And so yeah, we started doing book subscriptions where people would send through 3 books that they loved, or genres to avoid. And we put together a 6-month book subscription for them. Lots of people buying them as Christmas presents, as birthday presents. And yeah, it's just nice to have a book delivered to your door every 6 months that's being curated by a human.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that thing that's such a key part of visiting a bookshop, isn't it? Is just being able to have a chat with somebody who also knows about books and will have probably read different things than you've read, and be able to say this. That's the thing I'm really going to miss about the Bookshop Crawl this year, is we go around in groups and we'll spend our time in bookshops being like, have you read this? I've read this, it's great, you know, you should, and literally throwing books at each other. And that's definitely a thing that I've been missing. So I've got a subscription to a different bookshop at the moment, but I've been looking into the Word on the Water subscription as well. Just because even though that's something I do a subscription in my business, but it's so nice to kind of experience different booksellers' approaches to recommendations, because obviously you get 3 different people, they'd recommend you 3 different books, probably based on similar things.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really lovely part of having so many different bookshops accessible. And I've noticed in my planning of the Bookshop Crawl this year that so many bookshops websites have come on so far from where they were last year, and they're amazingly accessible now. And it's fantastic that you're offering that service, because it does help, I think, to recreate a bit more of the atmosphere. So we've talked about a little bit about Amazon, we've touched on that. I wanted to talk to you about the launch of bookshop.org in the UK, because I know that different booksellers have different opinions about it as a service. So I'll just tell you what I personally think first. My personal feeling about it is that, like, if I'm going to buy books online, so for years I've had an online wish list with Wordery, and I feel now that if I'm going to buy books that I would have bought off my Wordery wish list, I'll buy them from bookshop.org, and then some of the money will go to a bookshop. So from my perspective, it's better because some of the money goes to a bookshop, although I will still shop directly with indies as much as I can. So I just wanted to pick your brains really about your thoughts, because I saw that you are using it. I saw a recent post, I think, that you're using it for Word on the Water now.
Yeah, so when it first arrived, we were a little bit hesitant, thinking, you know, our online shop is thriving. Do we want something to come and take that away from us, or possibly take that away from us, be a bit more of a competitor? In fact, now we embrace it and we welcome it, because it provides books at a discount to the customer. And also they deal with all the administration, all the postage and the stock control, which allows us to be freer in doing what we like doing, which is curating books and book lists and recommending books for customers. So we normally get about 40% margin on a book, and with Bookshop, but then we lose the wages and the postage. And with Bookshop, we get 30% on a book, and we don't have any of those costs, and it's all packaged in a slip, you know, jacket with developers. And so we welcome it. It's great, especially when the shop reopens, and we'll have less time to run an online presence because we're dealing in person. It's going to definitely come into its own then. Yeah,
I agree. I think just from the range for at the moment where people are shopping online, because as you say, when you can come into a bookshop, you can say, oh, can you order me that book, and I'll come back the next day and get it. But obviously now we're all trying to limit how much we go out. Even if you're doing click and collect, you may not want to be going in and out multiple times a week or whatever to collect things. So from that point of view, I think the range of things available there is really good.
But I think customers also really appreciate the human touch and kind of emailing a human. And, you know, I get emails out of the blue saying, hi, Oliver, I'm looking for this book, kind of thing. So kind of on first name terms with your bookshop, which is quite nice for customers. Yeah. As you mentioned, Star, your children love Star. So with customers, I tend to send a picture of a dog to liven up their day. Thanks for shopping with us. Here's a random picture of our book barge dog. So that's been really, people email back saying, oh, that really made my day. And so that's really nice to be able to do. Similarly with the secondhand books, we're doing secondhand pre-loved book boxes, much as I think you do.
Yes, yeah.
Which kind of taps into John's vast collection of secondhand books which is also another thing that people come to the barge for.
Yeah, definitely.
And then shipping them out in the box, 8 to 10 books for as a book box.
It's a lovely thing to get.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been buying those as presents too, which is nice.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about the secondhand books. I'm glad that you've mentioned that, because I know we've had people in our groups before who have like traded a bag of books for books. So we usually visit Word on the Water like last at the end of the day, because we know everyone's going to want to hang around, and also because they're open a bit later normally when in normal times. Yeah. But yeah, so people all lug this bag of books around with them all day. I'm like, is that books you bought? They're like, no, I'm going to trade them. I'm going to trade them for more books. Which is a really nice thing to be able to do, I think. And I do appreciate in normal times, and it seems very much like you've carried that into social media, that whenever you visit, it always feels like the booksellers, whoever, whether it's John and Paddy or somebody else, they always have time to kind of sit and have a chat, and nobody's in a rush. And it does feel like a place where you're given time, and you can sit on the wall and listen to music and sit and take your time. And I think somehow that does carry over into your social media tweets generally as well, that kind of idea that nobody's in a rush and everybody wants to talk books with you and nothing's really too much trouble. Which is lovely. Yeah,
that's how it feels. I mean, that's the most important thing for the bookshop. And also it's also been nice during the pandemic to have a bit more time to be able to answer emails with, not just a stock answer, but to,
yeah,
and to build up relationships with customers as well, because we've had some customers who bought with us 15 times during the pandemic, and you sort of build up a solid sort of online relationship with those customers, and they always say, oh, I can't wait to make it down. Some people from the States who say, oh, I can't wait to make it over next time we're allowed to come, and things like that, which is really heartwarming.
Yeah, it is such a destination bookshop, I think, because I think that they've been taking part since 2017, which was their first mayhem year, where the Bookshop Crawl suddenly got really big 2 weeks before, and everybody was asking me if they could come, and I was like, I don't know. But they were so lovely, and everybody said to me when I'd asked these people where they wanted to go, where shall I curate an itinerary for us to go, everyone was like, we want to go to the bookshop on the boat. So it is such an iconic bookshop, and I can't wait till we can visit again. I have to say, I am really missing it.
We can't wait to welcome you back.
Yeah. Oh, it's very funny actually, because organising this year's event has been very strange, because obviously it's all virtual, and it's all very different from normal. And it was only like over the last few days I've been putting the big list together and sort of looking at the physical representation of everything. I'm suddenly really missing it and thinking, oh no, I'm not going to be able to actually go anywhere. And but this is a good substitute until we can visit in person again, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Best we can do at the moment.
It is, yeah. I mean, we wanted to do something. We didn't want to just have a blank year. So, and obviously this year has been more important than ever, really, to support bookshops in any way we can, because we can't visit and you can't have that passing trade of people just wandering by or whatever. So this kind of leads into the next question I had for you, which is, so do you think that people's reading tastes and habits have been affected by the pandemic? Do you think that what they're reading is changing, and like the way that they're reading?
Yes, so we've seen waves, really. It started in things like Albert Camus and The Plague and Orwell's 1984 were suddenly flying off the shelves. And then suddenly that took a nosedive, because people started realizing, well, this is real. We've got to take this seriously, and let's not read any dystopian, because the world is dystopian enough. And then, of course, in June, there was a huge uptick in anti-racist books, spurred on by the Black Lives Matter movement, which was brilliant to see. And, but writers like Ibrahim X. Kendi, Reni Eddo-Lodge, David Olusoga, who's a good friend of the Barge, selling lots of copies of his book. So that was brilliant to see, and hopefully that will also translate. It's moments like that that you feel your work is doing, not just changing readers, but kind of changing society as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see, you know, results of that over the coming, you know, as soon as possible, really.
Yeah.
But it was heartening to see people who may never have engaged with that sort of thing or realized about white privilege coming to realize, oh, this is really a thing. So yeah, so that was good. Brilliant to see. People are reading more. People have more time.
Yeah.
People are reading more complex things because it's not kind of a book shoved in a bag on the tube and trying to read it in amongst all the other commuters and with headphones shoved in your ears. People can, you know, take a bit more time to get into a more complex work. People have been asking for no horror.
Yeah.
Again, probably in the same thread as the dystopian thing. In the summer, we also put out a sort of a bookshop of escapist books, so books set in foreign places to kind of take your summer holiday through a book.
Yeah,
you can't get away this year, so, and they did quite well as well. So obviously, people looking for some escapism.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been an interesting year, and I think what you were saying about Black Lives Matter, and I mean, I bought a lot of books and have spent a lot of time thinking about my perspective on the world and why I think things that I think, you know, because obviously I've grown up thinking I'm not a racist person, but then you start thinking, why is my instant reaction to this thing this? And you kind of dig right down into the way you've been brought up and think. But I think that in a normal year, I probably wouldn't have thought about it as much, and I think this is probably the same for a lot of other people, that they've had more time to think about things, and they've also been less able to ignore things because of where we've all been at home, working from home, and there's not very much to do. So I think that people have been reading a lot different things than they maybe would have otherwise, and like you said, taking time to get into more complex books because they're not reading them on their commutes and whatever. I have to say, I've been avoiding the dystopia. I've been reading a lot of non-fiction, but not anything plague-based.
Yeah, no, not the time.
No, and a lot of escapist travel by book kind of books. Yeah. I've been reading a lot this year, which has been nice. Okay, I wanted to ask you, I didn't actually send you this question beforehand, so if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But I just wanted to ask you if there's a couple of books that you would recommend as like maybe the best things you read recently, or something that you think just you really like people to read, because obviously usually, as I say, we go around in groups, we throw books at each other, and we don't have that this year, so we're trying to build up some recommendations for people who want to buy books during the Bookshop Crawl and don't know what to buy.
We have seen a lot of people, and we love it when people pick up Life Doesn't Frighten Me by Maya Angelou, and with the illustrations by Basquiat. That's been an incredible seller this year.
Brilliant.
A, for the visuals, B, for the fact it's Maya Angelou and Basquiat, and the title. I mean, it's a children's book that, you know, tells that's sharing a message of, you know, life doesn't frighten me. Which I think this year has been uplifting for people. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charles Maxey has also done very well. It's, you know, a sort of heartwarming children's book, but
for everyone.
reading through it, it's there's morals, there's messages in there for everyone. So that's been really lovely to see. And yeah, just these sort of parcels of goodwill and hope going out into the world in the forms of books has been really lovely. So yeah, those two.
Great. And do you have the Maya Angelou in stock? Because I might have to order it from you.
Yes, we do.
Fantastic. And people can obviously order the subscriptions and everything from the website, which is great. We'll have all the details. We'll be spotlighting Word on the Water separately on our Instagram. Great. We'll make sure we signpost people to both those places to hopefully buy lots of books from you. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to participate.